Hey, 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 welcome back to Stop It. I'm your host, Emily Erb, and I'm super, super excited. I have a very awesome guest today. Her name is Sabrina Del Duca. She's redefining what it means for high achieving women to feel confident and successful. After climbing the corporate ladder and achieving professional milestones, she realized her sense of self-worth was tied entirely to performance, and that the very achievements she thought would fulfill her left her feeling disconnected and burnt out. She returned to movement, explored nervous system regulation, and dug deep into identity work, learning how to decouple worth from performance. Now, as an identity and embodiment coach, she helps ambitious women address the patterns keeping them frozen, overworking, or stuck in comparison so they can act from internal security rather than external proof. Her approach stabilizes identity, builds embodied confidence, and enables women to redefine success on their own terms. Wow, there is so much gold in all of that. And I cannot wait to get into some really important topics. So, without further ado, Sabrina, thank you so much and welcome to the show. And I would love for my listeners to hear your story to start us off with.
Amazing. Thank you, Emily. I'm so happy to be here and excited to share with all your listeners, with everyone watching. So, as you heard in my bio, in my intro, I definitely am an ambitious high achiever, which I'm sure most of you out there are. But what that means is that sometimes we base our entire existence and entire identity on performance. And so when we're not achieving, we feel lost. And so I built my career based on that identity of checking the boxes, doing all the things I thought I needed to do. And even before that, going to school, getting the straight A's, the high GPA so that I could get a good career and be on track to be successful. And if you're not seeing me, I'm doing air quotes, successful, because that's what we were taught. And you know what? It was successful and I was happy for quite some time. I was in advertising, it was exciting. I had a high position. I was managing $1 million budgets, doing creative projects, traveling. Like it was on paper and even living it, it was amazing. But at one point, something started to shift and something started to feel not quite right anymore. I didn't have the vocabulary at the time. I didn't have the knowledge I have now. So all I could do, or all I could say to describe it, is something felt like it was missing. There was something missing. I had worked so hard. I had, gained all this success, these achievements, but I felt still very unfulfilled. And the job that used to bring me so much joy no longer brought me joy. There wasn't a moment. I mean, I feel like over time, because this is a very anxiety driven, stressful job, if I could say it that way. And I was in client relationships. So I was basically the middleman, making sure everybody was happy. I was a professional people pleaser. That's how I like to say it. I was making sure
Wow.
the clients were happy, the agency was happy. And that kind of work, if you're not stable within you and you're not happy within you, it could take a toll. And I feel like that's what happened, where I started to outgrow my job. Now looking back, I see what happened. I started to outgrow my job, but being the high achieving, ambitious person with my job being who I was, that scared the hell out of me. Because I was like, if I'm not an advertising exec, who am I? And I wasn't prepared to answer that question. So what did I do? I tried to force it. I tried to fix externally all the things I thought were wrong. I tried to take time off to refresh. But when I came back, it all came flooding back. The feelings of, I'm not where I should be anymore. I don't enjoy this
Mm.
anymore. I don't like this. What am I doing? I'm not making a difference. I want to touch people. Like I want to feel like I'm really working with people on a personal level. This is too surface level for me. And this was a buildup over 2 years. And finally, in 2019, I hit a burnout. And the burnout was not from the overworking. And again, there was overworking there, but the burnout was from misalignment, trying to force fit a career that I had outgrown. And had I had the tools that I have now and the knowledge now, I could have tried to resolve it along the way so that maybe leaving that career, which is what I ended up doing, was not the solution. That could have looked different. Now, I'm a firm believer in everything happens for a reason, that we learn from everything. And so I needed to hit that burnout. I needed to leave that career to be able to bring me to where I am today. However, it might not be the solution for everyone. So I'm not here to say if you feel mismatch inside, you need to leave your career. Absolutely not. It's just an indication that there's something that you can explore that could look different. And had I explored that at the time, by the way, in 2019, we didn't talk about this openly. And burnout was like very, we don't talk about this.
It was
And so
normalized too. Like
it
if
was
like burnout was normalized when women would talk
burnout.
about like, oh, I'm so exhausted, I'm so busy. It was like, oh yeah, me too. And so we just normalized it.
Yeah, it was glorified even. It's
Mm-hmm.
like if you were saying I'm busy, it's like, oh, you're achieving. You're being
Yes.
productive. It's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, because it was glorified, I kind of fed into that as well. But my body, my nervous system was like, you need to stop. And it forced me to stop.
Mm-hmm.
And so I left that career, but as I said, like had I had these tools and this knowledge now, and we spoke about it openly, and it wasn't normalized, and it was like, wait a second, your body is shutting down. This is not a good thing. Then maybe I could have changed roles, changed agencies. And I've worked with clients in the past few years where they come to me saying, I think I need to change my job. And finally, we unpack it. And it's like, no, I just need more balance in my life. I just need to regulate my nervous system so I don't feel overwhelmed at work. So I feel like I have a purpose. And all of these things that I was missing, like I felt I no longer had a purpose. I felt I wasn't making a difference. The work began to feel heavy. I was no longer excited. And what really scared me is I became a shell of a person. And for me, that flags identity mismatch, if we can call it that, right? Like it's the identity fusion to your career that once that career no longer works for you, your identity dissolves because you've built it all around who that persona is. And when that's no longer fitting with you, it's like, oh my goodness, who am I? And that's where I was. And so because of that, I healed, I did the inner work, and now I want to help people navigate that with a little more ease, a little more peace, so that they don't have to hit rock bottom like I did.
Yes. Oh, Sabrina, that was so good. And thank you so much for sharing your story. I know that definitely takes some vulnerability to let women know, let others know where you're at and what that looked like. And I find it so helpful because I think I experienced very similar to you where I felt in misalignment, and that's like a very popular word I feel like people throw out a lot, is not feeling in line in what they're doing and feeling like something's off and feeling like there's more to life, like you were made for something more, and like searching for your purpose and things like that. And I'm curious as to like when you started this inner work and when you work with your clients that come to you feeling this way, where do you start with them? Like where, because I know that a lot of my listeners are probably resonating to this. I have a lot of moms, and as we become mothers, we're adding a new identity and then like all the other things from society of what they expect women to be and what everything should look like, we get buried underneath like our true our identity. And so it's
Mhm.
like where do you help them get started and things to look at and create awareness around?
Great question. I like to start with mindset work because I feel like it's a good entry point before going into like nervous system regulation and
Hmm.
deep inner layers, right? So we start with mindset, but there's an exercise that I love to do, which is determining your core values. So
Mm.
values work sometimes can help us just to realign with what's important to us, to help prioritize certain things in life. And that's really the first thing I did. So for me, when I was looking at my values, I realized that one of my core values was freedom. And at this corporate job in advertising, there was absolutely no freedom. I was there like 24/7 and I had no free time and I was, quote unquote slave to the corporate cog, like whatever you
Hmm.
want to call it. I felt like I didn't have place to express myself. And we'll get into this as well, but I'm a dancer. So for me, expression and creativity is at the core of what I do. And although I was in a creative agency, which I think I stayed there as long as I did because it was a creative agency, and I felt like, okay, I can fulfill that part of myself, that artistic part through this work that I do, it was still very rigid in terms of a structure of a corporate company. I
Mhm.
wanted to make my own schedule.
Sorry. Henry, mom's here. I'm so sorry.
That's
Huh?
okay.
What? The heating pad's up in my room. Yes. Can you
Oh,
close the door, please? Thank you. Yeah, heating pad's next to my bed. Mom can help you. I have a sick kid at home. He
oh, buddy.
earache. I thought he was just
Oh,
my mom's here, and so he is just really struggling with his ear. So
oh, buddy.
yeah.
That's uncomfortable.
It is. Earaches
Yeah.
really suck. I had one when I had the flu and it was terrible.
Ugh,
I was like crying in pain. So
yeah.
I get it. So, anyways, continue. Thank you,
So
Sabrina.
cute. No worries. Um,
You're
creative.
talking
Okay.
about values and
Yes.
freedom, and you were
Freedom.
getting
Yes.
like you were meeting your need for creativity work in your ad
Yes.
agency. Yeah. But the
Yeah.
freedom you realized that
Oh,
was
yes.
not there.
And I was at the point where I was saying I wanted a schedule where I could choose how I wanted to spend my days. I didn't want to wake up, rush, go to work for 9 a.m. and then stay until 6, 7 p.m. and then do my activities after. Like I was longing for a lifestyle where I could have my slow mornings, when I could schedule things that I wanted to do. And that's what I'm living now. And I feel so happy and so grateful that I'm able to do that. But that's an example of when you identify one core value, and usually we have 3 to 5 core values, then you start to understand why things don't feel right. Why can't
Mhm.
I make decisions with clarity? Because I'm not driven by those core values. And when you are, like if I'm driven by freedom and someone's asking me to stay overtime, well, it's pretty clear that the answer is no because I value my freedom. However, if my core value was being a hard worker or, productivity, then my answer would be different. And so
Mhm.
I think, that's an example of how you can answer questions on the spot. But I think when it comes to the bigger questions in life of like, what do I want to do? And even me leaving my corporate job, by the way, I left with no backup plan
Mhm.
and nothing to fall back on. I just trusted that this was the decision that was best for me. And I'm so glad I did because I was able to have that freedom once again to then decide what I wanted to do.
Mhm.
And when I was deciding, knowing my core values, knowing that making a difference was up there, that integrity was also up there, it helped me to see where are the opportunities for me to be doing that on a daily basis. And then that's where the alignment piece came in because I felt more confident in my decisions, knowing they were based on what was important to me.
So is that what you mean when when women can start to do some self-reflection and look to see what are their core values and maybe even like where they're falling in the line, right? So if like your
Right.
core value, one of them was freedom, but it wasn't at the top of your list, right? And so it's like creating, so when you are in alignment with your core values, you start to feel more like yourself. Like you start to like
Yes.
be able to start to see, okay, what's my purpose? And you can start there. I am curious, someone listening probably thinking, okay, well, this is great, but like, how do you find what you're valuing? Do you have I have a tip that I like to use, and I'm curious to see what yours is. Like, what would be like an easy way for women to just start to take notice at
Yes.
what they're currently valuing, but what is their actual value that is like what makes them feel like themselves, that makes them feel in alignment.
Great question again. I think one way, and I'm curious to hear your tip
Yeah.
as well. Yeah. I do have a PDF that I could share with all the listeners and everyone watching of how to find it, but I think in the moment, be aware of how certain things make you feel. If you're feeling anxious, if you're feeling resistance, if you're feeling like something is heavy and you're forcing it, chances are it's because you're trying to force fit it into your life and it doesn't align with your values. If something feels easy, peaceful, calm, chances are it aligns with your core values. And I'll even give you an example of one of my clients, she's one of the clients who came to me who was like, I think I need a career change. And in the end, she's like, I just need balance in my life. We got to that conclusion because for her, it was feeling heavy when she was going to work and she was, waking up at 9 early in the morning and then she was coming home late. She wasn't seeing her kids. She didn't have time for herself. And in her values, she realized that one of the important things that was low on her list, but should be higher, was family. And she
Mhm.
wasn't getting to spend the time with her family. So that's why she felt like something's off. Something is
Mhm.
not, I'm not living my optimum optimized life.
Mhm.
Something needs to shift. And when we start to look at those values, it's like, okay, well, family is really like it's number one for me. That's so important to me, but I'm treating it like it's at the bottom of the list and I'm
Mhm.
putting everything else before. And when she shifted that and she started saying no to certain contracts, she started being I guess you could say, healthy with her boundaries, but
Yeah,
also
setting
like more
boundaries.
firm. Yeah,
Yeah.
setting firm boundaries.
Yeah.
Then she was able to see, like, okay, I could get home in time to pick my kids up from daycare
Mhm.
and then spend some time with them before going to sleep. And I'm not totally exhausted. And then I could spend time with my husband too,
Mhm.
because love and a relationship was also high on the list.
Yeah.
So
That's so
hopefully that
good.
helps.
And you definitely my one of the tips that I like to use is look at where you spend your time and your money. Is like a way where we see what we really value or what we're placing at the top of our list. A really
Yeah.
easy way is to look at how you invest your time and your money.
Yeah.
And that's where I started and I was like, "Oh my gosh, like I say these are my top values, but they're not actually at the top of my list." And I
Yeah.
started to really do a lot of self-reflection. And I didn't make it a bad thing. Like I think that's so important too for women
Hmm.
that we don't have to shame ourselves, we don't have to punish ourselves, that we're out of, alignment and we're not having our top values, we're not prioritizing them. This is a time that we can just take a step back and reflect and see like, okay, our body is telling us something. We're feeling like
Yeah.
something is off. Let's listen to that. And that's like, let's experiment with it and just kind of take a look
Absolutely.
and see where that disalignment lies. And so I love that you have like that starting out point with values. I think that's so
Mhm.
important. And it can be because I think when we use the word mindset, at least for me before I started, my own like self discovery and my like journey because I very much felt the same way with you. I remember like I did all the things. I went to school, I got my degree, I got a job, I got married, I had the kids, and I was like, why do I still feel off? Like there's
Yeah.
just something that I don't and I couldn't figure like I couldn't put like pinpoint it.
Hmm.
And when I started doing this work, I started just like reflecting and seeing like, what am I currently valuing? And is this where I want it to be? And so I think that's such a great, I was getting to the point of mindset. When I was in the beginning process of that, when people said mindset, I was like, what are you even talking about? Like I felt
Yeah.
like people were crazy. Did you feel that way? Were you like, oh, this
Absolutely.
person's nuts, this person's so woohoo? And now I'm finding like I'm doing these things that I totally used to like make fun of or think it was just like people are so weird. Did you experience that?
To a certain extent, yes,
Okay.
because when things are starting to be talked about and it's a new concept, I mean, I'm always for the woo-woo. I love the woo-woo, but I also love the science. And
Hmm.
so if you give me like neuroscience, neuroplasty, all that kind of stuff,
Mm-hmm.
I divulge it. I love it because it kind of combines both, right? When you
Hmm.
talk about manifestation, it's like the energy, but also there's a science behind it.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, at first, I think when we hear these terms, and especially when they become buzzwords, I think that's where it's
Hmm.
like, oh, what are they talking about again? But then you actually try it and
Hmm.
you're open to just saying, okay, let's experiment. And I love that word because I use it all the time.
Hmm.
It's not about forcing it, it's about just trying it out, experiment with it, get curious, see how it could help you, try different things. And even when I work with my clients, and even my coach always says, don't believe me, try it for yourself. Or like, don't
Hmm.
take my word for it, experiment for yourself and
Yes.
then see.
Yeah.
And I think that's
That's
the best advice.
right. It's so good because I think so many times like women put so much pressure on themselves to get it right away. And
Yeah.
it's like we don't have to get it right away. We have permission to make mistakes. We have permission to learn and grow. And
Hmm.
um, there's shame and punishing yourself is never going to create change. And so, yeah, awesome. I really want to talk about self-worth. That has
Yeah.
been something that has been a growth journey for me, especially these last couple of years. And the women I serve were in the health and fitness, and were the women, my students are looking to hit body goals without restrictive dieting and all of that stuff. And I've learned in my own journey, it's like you can have this like strategy that works really well, like you lose the weight, and then it's like, why am I still not satisfied with the results that I got, right? Like, why do I still feel like I need to chase more? Or when I look at a progress picture and I'm like, at first I was really happy with the progress, but then when I look and compare my progress pictures, I felt like I should have been further along,
Mhm.
feeling disappointment in the results. And, um, I learned that I was still attaching my self worth to my results. And
Yeah.
so I would love to kind of go into that and maybe some of your experience with how you were attaching your self worth to your results, and how did you kind of navigate through that?
That's a big one. And it goes back to what we were talking about, even as you mentioned, for yourself as well. You studied, went, got the degree, got the job, got married, had the kids. Like we all are doing our best to check those boxes. And once we do, we expect to feel different because we expect that those external successes will make us feel something inside. And so the question I have is, what do you hope to feel by achieving that goal? And why are you not feeling it? Maybe you're attaching your happiness to that goal. Once I lose the weight, I will feel happy. Once I marry the person, I will feel happy. Once I get the house, I will feel happy. Happiness is not a destination. It's
Mm-hmm.
part of the progress. And so, if the underlying reason, the deeper desire, we call it, for you wanting that goal is to feel something, that's what we have to look at. And that's what I work with my clients on. What do you think this goal, this external goal, is going to bring you?
Mm-hmm.
And how can we insource that and realize that you already have that within you right now? And so
Mm-hmm.
it's shifting from chasing the success and the happiness to realizing that it's something that you innately have.
Mm-hmm.
And that also comes down to worth because we're all worthy of whatever we want, right? Like we don't have to prove ourselves. Um, we don't have to convince people of our worth. We just are worthy. And if you don't believe that, no one else will. And
Mm-hmm.
so we constantly try to prove ourselves, high achievers. We always try to perform, we try to produce, we try to justify our worth by all the things we're doing. But I want to flip that and say, you're inherently worthy as you are. You don't need to do anything different than just be who you are right now.
Yeah.
And then if you have a goal or two, cool, that's bonus. But don't let that goal define your worth and who you are.
That's so good. I love that. I that has been written in my journal for like the last year, is that I am worthy, I'm enough, I've been enough since the day I
Yeah.
was born, and I always will be. And you know what was so wild to me, Sabrina, is that I didn't even realize that I was attaching my self-worth to my results, to what my body looked like.
Mhm.
And if someone would have asked me a couple years ago, oh, Emily, you're attaching your self worth to your results, I would be like, what are you talking about? Like, I had
Absolutely.
no idea. And I think, it's so important to help create awareness for women that they're doing that. And so what could be something that you could help women start to create some awareness in their own life? Like what would be like a sign or a symptom that they're attaching their
Mhm.
self-worth or their enoughness to the results that they want, or the results they want to get
Yeah.
or don't have? Yeah.
The first thing I would ask is, how do you feel once you achieve that goal? Number one, you've achieved the goal because I trust and I know that all of the people listening, the high achievers, the ambitious women, you're achieving your goal. It's not a lack of drive or ambition or strategy. So, what's happening when you achieve the goal? Are you satisfied or do you feel like it's not enough? That would be number one. And number
And if
two,
they answer that it's not
yes,
enough. So, like if they're
yeah,
seeing a picture or they're seeing the number on the scale
yeah.
and they're saying, like, I'm proud of my progress, but it's not enough. Because I think it could be tricky where they're like, well,
Mhm.
no, I'm proud of my progress and it's not enough.
So there's a nuance here that I want
Yeah.
to bring forward. There's I'm proud of my progress, love that. Yes, as we all should be. And I also want to distinguish that it's okay to have a goal to change. Let's say we're working on feeling healthier. So you want to reach a certain number on the scale. Where is that intention coming from? That's the nuance. That's the distinguishing factor. Is it the fact that you are comparing yourself to others and you feel like you should be further along and you feel like that's where you should be? Or are you so solid in who you are and you're like, I'm happy exactly as I am, but it would be nice to lose an extra 5 pounds because I want to feel healthier and not I want to lose an extra 5, 10 pounds because I want to fit this stereotype. And I'm
Hmm.
being very general, very maybe stereotypical, but just to distinguish the two, I think there's a it's an abundance versus a lack mindset
Hmm.
if we talk about mindset, right? So the one that I see as a red flag is if you're always in the lack. It's not enough. It's never going to be enough. I'm not enough as I am. And that's why I'm always trying to be better versus abundance. I am enough exactly as I am, but it would still be nice to be 5 pounds lighter.
Hmm.
Example.
Hmm.
They're very different intentions, and I hope that clears it up a little bit to show
Yeah.
the difference.
Yeah, I think that's so good. And that's so, I think, so important for women to hear that is they can want what they want and never have to justify it, right? And at the same time, we can have gratitude for where we are right now. And that can be enough, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I love the comparison because I do think that also when you were talking about comparison, are you comparing yourself to others? And one of the things that I see a huge trend with a lot of women that I've worked with is they're comparing their former selves, that they're comparing like where the number that they see now, they're comparing it to the number they saw when they were in their 20s
Mhm.
and they're feeling like that's where they should be.
Yeah.
And I love the quote. I think it was Theodore Roosevelt who said, comparison is the thief of all joy. And isn't it true, right? It's like
Oh, yeah.
when we're comparing ourselves to our former selves. And then I love when I ask, like my students, okay, great. If you went to that number, if you got that number, how would you feel then when you were actually at that number, when you were in your early 20s and you had that number? Were you content then, or were you still feeling like it wasn't enough? And so I feel like that's just so important to like start to create that awareness and do that self reflection around enoughness
Hmm.
and how that's showing up in their life. And like I said, I think women can want what they want. I think that they can
Absolutely.
absolutely go for whatever body goal that they want. They never have to justify that, but also start to like look to see am I tying my self-worth to what
Hmm.
my body looks like or the results that I'm getting? And this also goes into career and business, right? Like,
Absolutely. Yeah.
whether you get the client or you don't get the client, it's like
Hmm.
you're still the same. Like nothing changes about you, whether
Yeah.
someone says yes to you or someone says no to you.
I love to ask the question, what are you making this mean about you?
Mm, yes.
Right? Because that's
Hmm.
what we do. We
Hmm.
don't get the client or we don't reach the goal or the numbers don't change on the scale. What are you making this mean about you? I
Hmm.
didn't do enough. I failed. I should have done more. And notice it's all in the doing. I
Hmm.
should have done more. Or if you want to go deeper, I'm not worthy of it, or I'm not strong enough to get there. I'm not capable enough, right? But it's all about you as a person. And that's where the identity piece comes in. Your inner critic is trying to bully you into taking action. And that's why it doesn't work long term. It works a little bit, it like kicks you in the butt to get moving, but it's not sustainable change because it's coming from a very surface level, superficial place.
Hmm.
Whereas if you do the inner work and you stabilize and you ground yourself in I am enough, and I'm not about toxic positivity, so I'm never going to tell someone,
Hmm.
just think I'm the best and repeat it and
Yeah.
it'll stick. Like,
Yep.
no, I'm sorry, that doesn't work.
Yeah.
So we
No,
work
it
through,
doesn't.
it does not work.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sure we've tried it and we
Hmm.
can see that it doesn't
Hmm.
work. But the important thing here is to actually choose if it is a statement, an affirmation that you at least 50% believe and know that there's some part of it that's true and you have evidence to back it up because the brain likes to look for evidence.
Yep.
And when we're in our inner critic mode and we're saying, I'm not doing enough, I should have done more, the brain's like, yeah, let me find you proof. And that's
Hmm.
why it just further emphasizes how we feel and then we spiral.
Hmm.
So, my invitation is to also look at what else can be true. What if I did enough? What does that look like? What if I don't need to do anything else? Or what if I just tried? What if I just experimented and released the pressure? Because what am I making that number on the scale mean about me?
Yeah, absolutely. That's so good. And the point there was something I should have written it down. There was something that I you said that I was like, oh, some of the questions, right? Like you get to assign the meaning, right, to anything that happens, anything that comes up for you. And I love that you said, what are you making this mean about you, about
Mhm.
yourself? And one of the questions that I really love to ask myself too, and it's actually on a post-it right here on my desk, who says? Like, who
Yeah.
says? You
Who
know,
says?
like
Absolutely.
when that inner critic starts to come up, when the ego comes up to
Yeah.
like tell you the things that like, oh, you suck, you failed, you weren't good enough. And it's like, well, who says this? Like who is actually saying this? Like trying to disrupt that pattern, that
Yes.
belief that your brain is searching for. Because if you have a belief, your brain will look and search and will show you truths to that to then because it wants to keep you nice and safe in your safety zone.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Absolutely. That's what the brain is designed to do,
Yep.
basically prove everything right.
Hmm.
And so if you're constantly feeding it negative beliefs and information, it's just trying to solidify and be like, yes, you're right. So it's going to show you all that evidence as to why that is true. So it's important with that inner dialogue to start shifting and asking what else can be true? What
Hmm.
else can I believe in this moment and see how your brain scans for evidence? That's why I love things like success journals and a win jar. I have one up here, a little win jar where I put my wins in there because then it helps my brain look for the good parts
Hmm.
as I'm growing and helps me be in gratitude and just appreciate the progress as I'm going along and not only look for the problems because our brain is solution oriented, problem solution, problem solution. So if you're always feeding it with problems, well, it's going to be like, yeah, you're right. And the solution is give up because then we're going into nervous system and it's trying to protect you and keep you safe in the familiar. So if the problem is I'm not doing enough, the brain's like, yeah, you're right. And if you do more, it's going to get you out of your comfort zone. And that's not familiar. We don't know what's out there. So let's just keep you safe and let's
Hmm.
put you in a freeze state. And then you don't do anything. And
Hmm.
so it's all connected.
I know. Oh my gosh, I could talk forever about this stuff because I think it's so fascinating. It's
Yeah.
more, it's really learning about how your brain is wired and coming like from an understanding. That's where like the science comes into place, but
Yes.
then also like what I call the woohoo stuff, right? Like it's such a great balance to help work through these things. And I think it's so important because I think so many women think if we just do more, we just have to look at like, I just have to do this so that I could have. And it's so backwards, right? Like, have you learned
Absolutely.
about the be, do, have in any of your
In a different way, I
in a
think.
different
Yes.
way?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm
Yeah.
curious to see like
Yeah.
how have you learned about the be, do, have because so many like we talked about this already, like where women think that if I just had the success, if I had more money, or if I lost more weight, then I would have this and I would be feeling confident in myself, right? Like I'd
Right.
be feeling happy. And it's backwards because it really starts with the being, like our identity,
Yes.
right? Of who we are. And that's where it works because once we work on that, then we start to take the action that's in alignment with our identity. And then we have what we really want to have. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And I
Yeah.
completely agree and totally aligns with something that a lot of my clients ask, how do I do it?
Mm,
What is the strategy? I'm not clear on the next steps, but we can't start with strategy and work backwards because what if it's not in alignment with who you are and who you want to become?
mhm,
So, like you're saying, you start with the B. Who is it that I am? Who am I becoming? Who do I feel like this next chapter can evolve into? And how does she move? What does she value? What does she do on a daily basis? And what is the first step that she can take towards that goal that she has? And so many quotes around this, but as you take the first step, then the path will unfold, right?
mhm,
Clarity comes as you're moving, it doesn't happen before. Clarity comes through courage and confidence. You take
mhm,
that first step, and you don't need to have the full plan. This is something that I learned the hard way, and
mhm,
I'm coaching my clients through. It's like they come to me and they're like, what's the strategy? What's the roadmap? And I just had one yesterday who was like, I'm not going to take action if I don't have all 20 steps and it's not guaranteed that I'm going to get there. And I was like, I feel you because I
mhm,
was like that too. But that keeps us stuck and that
mhm,
keeps us rigid and that keeps us
mhm,
closed to whatever else opportunity could happen,
mhm,
what other possibilities could occur. And I love to share this example when I was finding my new path. I had healed, I took a few months to heal after my burnout, after leaving my job. And because I didn't have a rigid roadmap and I just said, I want to get back into teaching. I want to get back into like being one-on-one with people, confidence through dance, all that kind of stuff. I'm just going to be open. There was a day where I said to myself, I want to go to this Pilates class, but I don't know if I should. Like there was a bit of hesitation, but something inside me was like, go to the class. And it was like a 30-minute drive, and I was like, it's fine, let's go. So I went to the class. My friend was the teacher. I hadn't seen her all summer, so we're talking after class, catching up. And I'm telling her, I really would like to get back into teaching dance. And she looks at me and says, wait a second. My dance teacher just quit at the high school I work at. Would you be available starting next week? And I was like, yes. And this is 6 years later, and I'm still at that school.
Wow, that is so amazing. And the thing was, is that like you weren't waiting. Like you just were like, you know
No.
what? I don't know, but I'm gonna just do it anyway. And
Yeah.
that's amazing. Oh my gosh. I
And
love
that's what
that
I like to
story.
call alignment.
Yeah.
And when the universe is like, you're patient, you're open to possibilities, you're willing to take action, but you're
Hmm.
not forcing, you're not, you don't have your blinders on thinking this is the one and only path.
Hmm.
Because if I was like, okay, well, I got to get back into teaching and let me contact all the studios I know, and then I would have been overwhelmed with that. And I probably would have said, I'm not going to go to that Pilates class. I don't have time for that. I got to make a
Hmm.
new career. And I would have missed that opportunity.
That's amazing. That is so cool. I kind of want to talk a little bit about confidence
Yes.
because that's something I know you will also really work with your clients with confidence. And
Mhm.
um, a lot of my students will come to me and they say, I want to feel confident in my body. And what are your thoughts around confidence? Like, how do we define what confidence is, and how do we know when we have it? Because I think that there's a lot of like untruths around confidence that we feel
Yeah.
like we have to earn it, or that we have to like some people are born with confidence and some people aren't,
Mhm.
and that's not true. But I'd love to hear like your take on it and like your definition and how you teach
Yeah.
your students around confidence.
My belief is that confidence is something you build, that anybody can have access to. And it's built through being willing to try, doing it when you're scared, and then looking back and being like, hey, I did that. And
Hmm.
that builds confidence. It's not about achieving, it's not about having the success, although that helps down the line. But I think at the bare minimum, it's about taking action when you're unsure and trusting yourself that it's going to work out, or at
Mm.
least being willing and open to take a shot. And that is the courage I often speak of because it takes courage to take that step forward. But then it's the look back and realization that I'm capable and I'm able to take action even when I'm unsure, even when I'm scared. That's a vote towards your confidence. And over time, that builds up. And so I think the misconception is I need to be fully confident to take that step. I need to be a 10 on 10 in terms of confidence. That's not realistic.
Mm-hmm.
So I think my belief is that you need to be at least a 5 or 6 on 10 because you have a bit of drive to at least take that step forward, confident that you can at least do that small thing
Hmm.
and start small and build accordingly. And that's what brings you up to a 7, to an 8. But I think a 10 on 10 confidence, once you feel 10 on 10, it's because you've mastered something, right? So you're in a job that you've been doing for 10 years and you've mastered your skills. Dance teacher, I'm a 10 on 10 in terms of dance teacher. However, there are some rooms that I still walk into and I'm a 6 on 10 because I don't know the students. It's a new class, it's a new studio. Like I could still be rocked a little bit. But I think the willingness to still show up and trust myself that I can be a 10 on 10, that I've done it before, gives me that extra little boost to say, like, do it anyway.
Hmm.
And you know that you're going to be able to get through it because you're resilient, because you've done this before. This is not the first time. And even if it is the first time, it's like, what are other situations that I've had in my life where it's been the first time and I've gone through it and I've succeeded?
I love that. I think that's such a great way to just demonstrate confidence is that anyone can have it, right? Like you can activate it anytime. And a lot of times when we take the action, even though we're scared, even though this is hairy and scary for us, we do it anyway. And I kept hearing you use the word trust. Trust and confidence go hand in hand, right? Like you're
I believe that.
building trust with yourself is really, I think, when you feel confident in yourself, there's that trust, like you're trusting yourself. And I think, when you do new things, it's like one, being okay with letting yourself make mistakes and bumble along the way, right? But when you can look back at your past experiences, I love when you said that because I think that's so great to like shift and see your brain in a way that, like, hey, I never knew how to drive before. But when I first started, it was scary. I didn't know what I was doing. I definitely made mistakes along the way. And then, like, through action, you learned how to drive. And then you
Absolutely.
built confidence in your driving skills. And so I think that's so great when we do come to a crossroads or when we do come to a place that we want to try something new and we're afraid, it's like, well, haven't we done new things before and haven't we survived it? Like, haven't
Yeah.
we been able to figure it out? And you can look at the trust that you've been building along the way. And I think that's so, so good. And I love that.
And I would even encourage those watching and listening to make a list.
Mm,
If you're struggling with confidence and you're like, I'm not a confident person, I'm someone who, I really need to work hard for confidence. I'd love for you to reflect and make a list of all the times in your life where you started something new and looking back, like after the practice and the experience, you're able to say, I'm confident in doing this certain thing.
mhm.
And you're going to
Yes.
have a long list for sure.
Yes. I remember my mentor, he was my mindset coach, and we were talking about confidence. And I realized I felt I was lacking a lot of confidence in my own self. And he had us do this meditation, which was so helpful. And we like closed our eyes and we put our hand on our heart. We did the breathing. And he had us like go back into a time where we felt so confident. And it was just like when I would work with some of my students and have them do this. And you just saw how like just the energy, you felt it, like you saw it, you felt it when they were
Yeah.
placing their intention and their thoughts on a time that they were confident. And then like again, how our brain seeks patterns. The first like memory that you look to see, oh, this is where I felt really confident. Your brain can then go to a next time that felt really
Yes.
confident and then a next time and a
Yeah.
next time and a next time, and it totally just changes your state, right? And I think that
Yeah.
kind of plays with, you do a lot of like self-regulation work,
Hmm.
correct? And
Correct.
working on like emotions and things like that.
Correct. Yes. And I
And
do, on the confidence piece, I also want to mention that confidence is a result of taking action. You're not taking action because you're confident. You're taking action and confidence will follow,
mm,
if that
I love
helps
that.
to distinguish.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
I think that's so good because, I mean, when you look at really successful people and you hear their stories, like one, for example, for you, like you realize, you recognize you weren't in alignment, you didn't want to stay at your job anymore, and you quit and you just did it. And like, I'm sure you were scared and you probably weren't
Absolutely.
fully like confident in that. I did the same thing, by the way. I'm right there with you. I felt
Yes.
all the things, all your signs and symptoms of how you weren't feeling in alignment with your job. I did the same thing and it was so hairy and scary. But as you said, like when you're open to receiving and you're open to just like trusting and knowing that things will eventually work out, because when you look back, if we're looking back at past experiences, so many times we look at all the bad things or the things that didn't go well. But if we look at the times that, like, oh, well, we weren't sure if this was going to work out, but it did. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like it's like
absolutely.
it always works out. It always works out in our favor.
It always
And
does.
hmm
And it doesn't necessarily work out in the way you thought it was going to
hmm
work out, because that's
or
another thing.
or the timeline. Or
Or
the
the timeline.
timeline,
Oh, that's a
right?
big one. Thank you for saying that. Or the
Yeah.
timeline, because
Uh-huh.
I need things to be done yesterday. So,
hmm
yes,
hmm
I think, it doesn't always work out in the way that we have planned. And that's where surrendering to the external outside attachment and expectation is going to help you find that inner peace that's needed to find that clarity to move forward in a way that feels good. Because when we're attached to the outcome, how it's going to happen in the timeline it needs to happen, and to be real, it never happens in that way.
Nope,
It's
never.
also being, it never happens. But what I love to think about and reframe in that situation is it's because that way wasn't right for me. It's because that timeline wasn't right for me. And so it's happening in a way that will really help me to be in alignment with who I am and who I'm becoming. But if I didn't have that open mindset and I was still locked into the fact that like it's not happening, I've failed, well, then I'm not leaving myself open to all the other ways that it could happen. With my example of teaching, if I had not left myself open to just having conversations and even gaining clients is the same thing. I think I'm going to gain clients by being on social media. Spoiler alert, it doesn't happen that way.
hmm
It happens
hmm
by talking to people, by connecting with people. And so by leaving yourself open to other ways that it can come, you then just allow yourself to have different outcomes and no attachment to them. And I know
hmm
that's a whole other conversation, but
I know it is. And it's, and I think I just want to normalize that like doing this inner work is uncomfortable. And
yes,
there are like, I think so many of us, we think that if we just keep choosing the easy, that we're going to get to where we want to go faster. But I don't know. I'm sure in your experience, like with mine, it's like, oh,
mm,
when I finally started doing the hard things, the things that had me come out of my comfort zone and try new things, it was really hard at first, but then I got to where I wanted to go. And then
yeah,
I don't think you ever just check things off the box either. I think growth is something that's always happening, but
absolutely.
choosing the hard is actually choosing easy in the long run,
I love that.
right?
Choose your hard is something I love to say because it's hard to do that new thing, to step out of your comfort zone, to go after your dreams, but it's also hard to stay stuck in a
hmm
life that you feel you've already outgrown, that you no longer belong to, that you've lost yourself in.
hmm
And so choose your hard.
Yeah.
They're both hard, but choose the one that you and I will always empower you to make that choice, but to really reflect like which hard am I willing to lean into?
The one that keeps you in the same place or the one that grows you. I literally just did a post about that because I love talking about that stuff. Because for so long I did keep choosing the hard that kept me stuck because that was what
Mhm.
I knew. Like it's the devil you know
Absolutely.
versus the
Yeah.
devil you don't know.
And yeah.
And it's, I think it's just so important to just like normalize that too for women, knowing that
Mhm.
like this takes time. It doesn't
Yep.
happen overnight. But it's inside of every single one of us. Like, yes,
Mhm.
we're all special, but like we're nothing special either. Like we weren't born, you and I weren't born with like an extra something in us, right? Like it's within
Right.
all of us, and it's absolutely possible for anyone to create change in their life and to get into alignment and do the things that you really want to do. And that's really, really cool. I love that.
Yeah.
Sabrina, is there anything that you want to end us with, like one last thing or piece of advice or one of your favorite inspirational quotes? I know I'm kind of
Yeah.
putting you on the spot here. And I know I
Yes.
like sometimes freeze about that. I'm like, oh, what are things that I
Yeah.
always say to myself?
I think just going off what you just mentioned, I'm gonna add you always have a choice.
Mm,
And I want to empower you to reflect on that. You always have a choice. You can always choose to do better, and you can always choose to stay where you are, and both are okay for you.
hmm
And for me, for the longest time, like you, Emily, I chose to stay where I was because it felt like it was the right option until it wasn't, until there was something within me that really said, okay, it's now or never. We need to make that change. And sometimes we need to get to that point,
hmm
but it's not by someone else telling us. It's really by the inner cues of being like, okay, it's time. And when it is time, it's going to be uncomfortable. It's going
hmm
to be challenging, but it could also be really beautiful. And it's going to take you to a place that you've never envisioned you could be. And you're going to be so proud of yourself for the process and for being willing to be open and vulnerable and to take those steps that are needed to get to your next level. And you're going to look back and be like, I did that.
mm,
And I'm so
hmm
happy. Yeah.
Yes. Oh my gosh, Sabrina, that is so amazing. That's like all the stuff that I write in my journal, the things that I say to my students. I love that so much. And I think it's just I think you and I both just want women to feel empowered in their life and to think for themselves and to know that they always have a choice. I love that because so many of us feel like we don't have a choice and there are a lot of things that are out of our control, but there's so many things that we can control and we can control our thoughts and whether we want them to be empowering or not. And that's just so amazing. So Sabrina, thank you so much for being on. I knew when we first talked, I was like, oh no, we're totally in alignment. And when you're dropping words that I'm using, I'm like, yeah, no, we're definitely in alignment. Um, so I would love for you to just share where my listeners could find you if they want to learn more and they want to get
Yeah.
into their deeper next level, where they could find you.
Thank you. So my website would be a great place, sabrinadelduca.com. I'm very active on social on Instagram. My handle is Duchess Sabrina, which I know you'll include in the show
Yes.
notes. I'm also on Facebook. I also have my own podcast. New episodes are on hold right now, but you have over 130 episodes to binge if you're interested. It's called Get Into Flow, the Mindset Shifting Podcast. And I'd love to share a resource with your audience as well, if that's
Yes.
okay.
Oh my,
Yeah.
yes, please. Yes, yes, absolutely.
Amazing. So we spoke about core values in the very beginning. I have a PDF where it can help guide you to be aware of your 3 to 5 top core values, which is a great place to start when you're looking for what's important to you, how you can realign your life to match your values, and hopefully find a little more inner peace and happiness.
I love that. Who doesn't want more inner peace and happiness?
Right?
Yes, yes. Well, thank you so much. I will include all of that information in the show notes. If anyone would like to see them, I know I'm going to download that for sure.
Amazing. Well,
And
let me
yes,
know. I'd love to hear
yes,
what your
I
values are.
will. Yes. Well, when you were talking about one of yours was freedom, I was like, yep, that's probably why we're connected because
Yeah.
I realized that was one of mine too is freedom. And that's why like I was really struggling at my job because I wanted to do things a certain way and they kept telling me no. And I'm like, oh, I don't like that word no. Like I realize I do not like people telling me no. I want to be able to do what I want. And so yeah, freedom is definitely on there and growth. Those two are
Mhm.
very top ones for me that I very much value. And I realize Before I wasn't. They were down at the bottom, and that's probably one of the reasons why I felt so like
Yeah.
not myself and uncomfortable. And then once I started investing more time and also our resources, my money into it, that those top two started coming up, which was really nice. Well, they were on the bottom,
Amazing.
but coming up. Yeah. So
Yeah, that's great.
yeah.
Um,
Well, thank you
yeah.
so much, Sabrina. And I probably will ask you to come back on at some point because I
I would
love
love
your
that.
information. I feel like there's so many things. I was like writing notes. I'm like, oh, we could go down these different avenues and things like that. So, don't be surprised if I hit you up again and be like, come back on, please.
Amazing. I'm
Yes.
ready.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you so much, listeners. I hope you guys have a fantastic week, and I will see you guys next week. And remember, life is always happening for you, and hope you guys have a great week. Bye.